Okay, welcome everybody to episode 3 of season 2 of the Fine Watches Podcast Australia.
Good afternoon, Ben. It's great to be here again. I'm really enjoying this. This is awesome. We're getting some good feedback, so this is fantastic.
Indeed. I want to start off by saying we know from all the stats that we have a really solid core of listeners who listen without having individual names or whatever, but we know that the core through listens are pretty consistent, which suggests that there's a group of you who like the podcast and listen regularly and loyally, which we super appreciate. Can we start with the usual appeal? If you love what you hear, do us a favor, help us grow, help make this a bigger community. Please do review, like, subscribe, all of that stuff. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, follow, all that stuff as well. Helps us grow and bring you even better and better content. So
send us messages, send us comments, put comments in comment sections or on Facebook, Instagram. Check out the YouTube page. Like, have a look at the video version of the podcast, because the audio is great, but there are some visual things that you might be missing, or you want to go and see exactly what watch we're wearing. Like, check out the YouTube the channel as well. We're loving the support, and thank you so much, guys.
Indeed. Let's start as we usually do. Wrist check. What are you sporting today?
Right, I can't remember if I've told you or shown you this, but I got a new watch last week or the week before. I was hunting it and I got a new watch, and this is it. Let me set the time so I can show people. This is my brand new Universal Genève White Shadow. So this is a Gerald Genta designed piece. It's got sort of a cushion Eclipse style case with a really clean stark white dial, and behind the case back is a micro rotor movement. So it's a nice little piece from the 60s. I added this to my collection about a week and a half, and I love it. It's the oldest watch I own in my collection, but it's one of the most beautifully designed and sort of intricate things without being intricate, if that makes sense. It probably doesn't, but I'm saying it and sticking to it. So yeah. How about you, Ben?
I think just before I tell you about what I'm wearing, I think Universal Genève is a mystery to me as to why of all the brands that have been launched and reinvigorated and all that, why someone hasn't redone it, relaunched that brand. I don't know. Possibly, could be a legal thing. Someone owns it and doesn't want to sell the brand or whatever, but they are
usually the case, isn't it? That stuff in Switzerland gets a bit bogged down and gets a bit hard to sort of pull out of the depths of death. But like for this piece, especially, so many people with Universal Genève talk about the pole router. Obviously, that's the one that everyone goes to. But like in 34 mil case, I've got, sort of 6 3/4 inch wrist. So it's on the smaller side, but it's fine. It's vintage, it's classic. I love it. It's ultra thin. Yeah, the brand does so many cool things. Some of the vintage stuff that you can pick up, some of the chronographs and things that they do.
Compacts, buy and try compacts, the Nina Rint, Evil Clapton. Like, there's so many things that are just amazing out of that brand. And just to proper the conversation we were having last week about collections and all that, for people with small wrists, vintage is often a really good option, because in the 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, there were a lot of, the size was typically smaller, so good option. So on my wrist today, I have a Zin chronograph. It's a special edition one. It's the 103. I don't remember the exact serial number because I'm not an exact serial number guy, but it's a sort of a limited edition blue version, which has beautiful creamy lume. I don't really buy into the Fotina debate. To me, this doesn't count as Fotina. It's not pretending to be something it's not. It just uses an awesome color combination. And yeah, just awesome. I love it myself. And
it's a really cool watch. It's a really cool watch. Zin is another one of those brands that's like, you're criminally underrated. So many people spend like that $2,500 to $5,000 range on, Breitlings, Oris's, even some of the smaller Omegas and things. But Zyn do some really, really cool stuff. Their Tegament stuff, the hardened steel, it's fantastic.
Oh, don't get me started on that because I've got plenty to say about that in today's conversation. So yeah, no, but I completely agree with you. I think that Zyn is amazing. So yeah, so that's what I've got on today. So this week in watches for you, what struck you this week?
Have you seen the new Longines?
The
Have you seen
dive
this
thing, the series dive
the pilot.
thing.
Hang on, let me pull up the name because I've forgotten how to pronounce this thing already. But the new Longines pilot, which is called the Longines Pilot Magitech. Have you seen this?
Yes.
Oh,
yes. Super cool.
I love it. It's so, you know what? I love almost everything about it. The only thing I'm not a huge fan of is when brands do the like Invicta thing of putting a plaque on the case side.
Yeah,
all those brands, like if you do this, like eat an entire bag of dicks. If you do this, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. No, I looked at that watch as well this week and just was like, wow. And then got to that left side shot and went,
yeah,
what the fuck is this? Why did you?
Like, apologies if you enjoy eating bags of dicks. That's fine. Like we're here we support you. You're the best. But oh my god, Longines.
Yes.
It's such a cool watch. And then they put a bloody plaque with 1935 or something that got on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look,
but anyway, it's pretty cool. I love it.
There's another brand that I think is criminally underrated. Like people view, it's the Zammels jeweler bloody curse of death, that it's one of the brands that, all those high, sort of shopping center jewelry stores have. But, in terms of pedigree as a commercial watch, it's beautiful quality. They have such an amazing range. I think I've mentioned the Spirit collection, like a COSC certified watch for, $2,500 secondhand. Like if that was an IWC, if it was IWC, it'd be $12,000 for exactly the same thing. It's definitely one of them. For me,
I really like. Sorry, you go, Matt.
Sorry, go on. You really like.
I really like the really clever timing mechanism they've done. So where they've got the floating triangle that turns with the bezel, I think that's really clever. I've never seen that before. I don't know if you have. I can't recall a brand that's done that with a watch where it's like a floating in the sapphire rotational device. Like, it's really, really interesting. They've got almost like the Seiko Sumos?
Yes.
And they've got that. It's not Sumo, Samurais. Seiko Samurais.
Yeah.
And they've got that sharp downturning angular lug.
Yes.
A real like meaty. It's got that going about it. It's got cool like engine turn rotating bezel. Like there's so many things I love about the design of this watch. The old style numerals, the clean black dial, and then it's got a plaque.
I think they also released that sort of 60s diver, another from the Heritage diver range. I think it would be 70s, judging by the colors, the oranges and all that. This week or last week or the week before, whatever. I love the whole sort of Longines Heritage line. I think they've done so many good designs throughout history, and even just the women's collection. The
Dolce.
The Dolce. I mean, what a
Dolce Vita.
It's a bit like the Cartier tank if you can't afford a tank. And especially if you're buying a quartz tank, the difference between what's inside it's not all that different, and the effect on the wrist with an evening gown or whatever is lovely. It's a beautiful.
They've even got the coloured ones now. Like there's bright reds, the blues. Like the tank de must or the mustard tank, whatever it is, Mustard, whatever that new one is, where they did the green, the black, the blue. They've got those in Longines for like $2,000.
Yeah.
And you ain't paying retail for that. You're getting discounts if you walk into the store. So that's a good buy. Yeah, that's what caught my eye. Longines caught my eye this week.
No, I agree. This week for me, again, this is one, cynical comment rather than so much social media of speculation of what will Rolex do at Worn and Wound, and every if you're another social media person, you hear this and you've gotten your Photoshop out, respect to your creativity or whatever, but like first of all, as I've said before, it's the least exciting thing to me when Rolex releases another color variation of what they've done before. And I don't know, like, let's get excited about some, what's MB&F going to bring out at Watches and Wonders, or what's Chaikin going to drop or whatever, that to me is the exciting stuff. But yeah, so that's my little, Ben's cynical.
So Ben, you didn't enjoy, was it Adrian Barker, formerly Bark and Jack, now Adrian Barker? He does with the About Effing Time guys. You didn't enjoy his Photoshop of like a white Explorer one? You didn't think that was creatively genius?
Actually, that was one of the nicer ones that got around.
I'm throwing shade, but I love him. Like, I actually like Andrew as well from time to time. Like, they're good people, but yeah, I had to throw a bit of shade there.
But it wasn't. But the thing is, it wasn't just like it was. I reckon I must have seen at least 10 different accounts doing exactly the same thing, and I don't know whether it was just that. Maybe Time and Tide or someone did it first and they saw that it got 10,000 likes and everybody else went, oh, maybe if I do a post like that, people will lose their shit. But, I don't know. Like, to me, who cares? Like, just wait to see. The Rolex designers and decision makers know what they're doing. And, people are frothing over the fact they can't get them and they line up, right? So, yep. They certainly do. They absolutely.
Well, before we get cancelled for hating on Rolex, let's move.
No. I'm 100% in this case. I am not hating on Rolex at all. I'm hating on the people who, of all the things you can wonder and look forward to at Worn and Wound. Is Rolex going to drop a bloody fairy floss pink version of something or other? Who gives a shit? Like, that's really that's what I'm thinking about. It's
Tiffany OPs.
Yeah, indeed. So
awesome.
That was my sort of thing of the last couple of weeks is really, come on guys. But yeah, so this week we are going to have an awesome discussion, I reckon. And why I say it's awesome is that this absolutely stumped me. Like, I sat down and I had so many variations on the $10,000 watch collection, because as we've said before, and the reason we're doing this is that so many people go and drop a lot of money, and especially early in the collection journey, on something. And again, no shade to anyone. If the first watch you want is a Vacheron World Traveler or whatever, and you want to drop 40 grand, you've got to go for it, right? But to me, for 10 grand, you can put together an amazing collection of watches. And so that's what we've decided to go with. And I think let's go one-on-one, I reckon, rather than.
This is slightly unfair though, because peek behind the curtain. I sent you mine. And you go, and your words were, oh, sweet, this looks great. We'll have a think about my collection and let you know prior. Did I hear another damn thing from you? No, I didn't. So 1 for 1 is utter bullshit, but I'll do it. Okay.
No, if you want, I'm happy to go. Happy. It's not a competition. It's not a competition.
Totally is, though. Totally is. And actually, you know what? I was naughty today, and I added a watch to my own collection that I think I'm going to try and squeeze into this collection as well. So
this is going to be interesting because you showed me the box already, and there is definitely already one crossover in the collection. So I'll go first, and I'm kind of revealing one of yours as well. But for me, definitely a Casio.
Yeah,
is a really cool thing to have. Literally bash it against brick walls. you know, swim, sailing, whatever you're go be a farmer and use this and it'll survive. In fact, more people that I know who are in military and emergency services wear G-Shock than anything else.
Yeah.
So that's that. The warning that I give with these though is that they are addictive. So the $240 you spend on the first one becomes $240 on the second one, becomes $240 on the third one. And there's another 2 or 3 colorways that I've got. They're in my wife's possession. So, you know, the problem is that these are addictive and they're cool. They're super cool. Like it, you know, they look cool with everything. You know, as we said, smash them around, and for a couple $100, awesome.
I'm really interested in that because so the reason I went for it is probably slightly different to how you. So, you know, peeking behind the curtain again, in previous life, I was a police officer. And so G-Shock was like standard uniform. But it was always bulky G-Shocks because that was kind of the fashion. But I'm a twig. Like, I'm like 75 kilos. I'm not a big guy. And so bulky G-Shocks never really sat well with me. The Casio comes out. It's the thinnest watch they've ever made. At the time, it was the 44 mil, but wore like a 42. Now they've got the smaller one, obviously. It was perfect. Like, it actually fit on my wrist. I wasn't a copper at the time when it came out, unfortunately, because I would have been rocking that thing, going from terrible job to job. But
this one's kind of police issue.
Yeah, they got the blue and white,
navy and grey. Yep.
So for me, it was that it was small. So it's a small beta, and it fits every wrist. Like, you're a much bigger guy than I am. You got a thicker wrist than I do, and you also love it. And I think that shows the genius of the Casio. That smaller guys, bigger guys, guys who are active, not active, people who are into fashion, not into fashion, those G-Shocks can serve so many purposes. The Casio is, I think, probably the best watch in the G-Shock range ever. Period.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think the two things I'd say about them again is, again, with, you know, Ben's cynical comments, but one, I don't really like the conversion kits where people sort of put the guts into a sort of a Royal Oak metal frame with the screws and all that.
I'm hiding off camera now because I've done like 5 of these in my personal collection. So I'm gonna.
And the reason I don't love that is simply that the Casio is already a super cool piece of design. It's not a Gerald Genta Royal Oak. So just, you know, don't. Anyway.
For me, when I did it, it was before they brought the metal one out, and they themselves went gentified.
Gentified, indeed.
And so I did the old AliExpress, like, Royal Oak style piece, just because I prefer metal bracelets to rubber watches. I don't really like rubber watches.
Yeah.
So I did that. But you're right. Now you can get the metal one. I'd probably just say get
the metal
that.
one. Yeah. But that doesn't have the screws, does it? It doesn't have the oak.
Yeah. It's different. It's different enough, yeah. But I like the tinkering of it. It was, you know, you get to pull it apart, and it was quite cool. It was a cool invention, and it was definitely a moment in time in the watch market when the Casio was at its peak.
Yeah, no, look, it's a cool idea and everything, but I love the fact that, you know, chuck that on, pair of shorts, summer's day, super cool, colours, fun, whatever. What I would say about these, again, you know, comments from the Super Coach, so hard to set.
Oh, yeah.
The date and the second time zone and which time zone is it actually displaying and all that. It's just so hard to set. And it doesn't.
I haven't got one anymore, and I forgot about that.
Oh, people can, you know, it's not even, you know, even today, sometimes you buy products that have not so much from Japan anymore, but, you know, from China, where the instructions are clearly, you know, not written by an English professor. And that's, you know, not to comment on cultures or whatever, but it's, you know, sometimes the instructions are incomprehensible. And it's not even that. Like the actual process of hold this button and press the other one 7 times and all this is just, I don't know why it was so complicated, to be honest. But anyway, there you go. Number 2, because I kind of stepped on your number 1. Go number 2.
No, I'll go. Number 2. I'm going to go. So, like, when I do mine, when I collect, I like occasions. I like having, you know, watches for different occasions. I don't like just having, 5 dive watches. So it's just not really my thing. So I tried to make this 10 grand spread along 5 watches or so, 6 watches. And so like starting off the Casio, I've put it down there at like $200. You can probably pick these up even cheaper in Australia. Like I'm saying Australian dollars, obviously.
Yeah.
Pre-owned, you get one for like 150, I'm sure. But yeah, they're 240 brand new. You don't really need to buy them brand new. That you can get them pre-owned, they're fine. So then I went to.
Sorry, can I just? Sorry,
Yep.
quick pin in that. I need to declare my criteria. So my criteria were assuming pre-owned, like getting good pre-owned or whatever, rather than paying full retail on a new piece where the piece wasn't vintage. So, and obviously Australian dollars, but I assumed pre-owned for things because who's going to go and pay retail. Please continue.
I did the same thing, exactly the same thing. And then so my next category, I went to dress watch because I think, you do need one dress watch, but then also I don't think you need a watch you will only ever wear when you're dressed to the nines. So, because I wear my watches with every outfit. Like this Universal Genève is technically, a vintage dress watch, but I'd wear this in shorts and t-shirt and it doesn't really bother me. Same as my president, the same as like I've had reversos and things that are dress watches and I just wear them daily. It doesn't matter. So, but you do need a watch that's on a leather strap, essentially is what I'm going for here. Leather strap, a little bit thin, and a bit special, just a little bit special. So I went for, and you can take your pick here. You can go almost any vintage Omega Seamaster, Genève, anything. Like, I'd throw this in as well, the Universal Genève, but I think it's a little bit more deep in the weeds. I think if you're buying a UG White Shadow Gerald Genta Micro Rotor, like that's not for everyone, and I get that. I love it, but
it's also going to take a greater part of the 10 grand than a vintage Seamaster, right?
Yeah, so I was saying like $1,000, $1,500. You can pick up gold Seamasters, you can pick up steel, you can like black dials, white dials, you can pick up Paipan dials, but you can have a gorgeous vintage Omega in your collection for like under $1,500. And so on those 2 watches, the Casio and the Seamaster, at worst, you could be at like $1,700 at worst. And I think you've got 2 great pieces. What about you?
Agreed. My dress piece is a little bit different because I didn't apply the same criteria around leather or whatever. And my dress piece is this, for those not on the YouTube. It's a Tissot PRX chronograph. I think that it's both. I mean, it's arguably sort of sporty or whatever, but I think
arguably sporty. It's a damn Panda dial chrono. It's like it's an integrated bracelet Panda chrono. Oh,
I think it's dressy. I think it's dressy. I think you could wear this with any suit, whatever, and it will look fine. I think it's not. It's not a. It's not a. I don't know. It's not a some sort of dive thing that's clearly, it's not a tool watch, put it that way. It's more of a, I think that, the PRX, I think that anything from the PRX range, but this was the one that I chose. I think this is my sort of dress style. But the other thing is that maybe we're a little bit different. For me, I'm wearing a black collared shirt today, but 99% of the time I wear black t-shirts, jeans, and if it's a wedding, I'll put a jacket on. If it's a funeral, I'll put a jacket on, or whatever. So this is as dressy as I need. So, and if I go to the Oscars or something, I'll reach out to Jacob and see if he can lend me something or whatever, and we'll see.
Well, all right. Well, on the PRX train, I'll tell you how I was naughty then today, because I got a little red box that came in today, and I couldn't pass it up, and I bought myself a Tissot PRX.
Awesome.
Powermatic 80.
Awesome.
Black dial, waffle print.
Awesome.
And you know what? I'm going to throw it in my collection as a bit of a wild card.
Yep.
Is that these things are amazing, Ben, and I didn't give it anywhere near enough credit. I always thought they were cool. I thought they were too big for me.
Yeah.
Mate, this is cool. I love it.
Cool.
So I'm with you. PRX is a great watch.
Cool. When you showed me before we started, you showed me the Tissot box. I was like, I better know what's in there, because these are, look, I think that for $2,000 of the allowance is a lot of watch.
That is a lot of watch. Also a lot of the allowance.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. I've spread it out.
So should I tell you how much I paid for mine's the three-hander.
Yeah.
You want to know how much I paid for this today?
No.
200 Australian dollars.
Bullshit.
Yeah, $200. It was part of a, you know what? I was cheeky. It was part of a bigger trade. We bought a lot of other stuff from the guy, and we gave him a great deal on the other side of the deal.
Right, yeah.
He took something, but by the time you work it all out, and the numbers work to the numbers, it's like $200.
Okay, but
I would say for like 500, pick one of these up for what you spend $2,000 on those.
Yeah, these retail at about 2.5 or something, but you can pick them up around the traps for about 2.
Right.
And my argument is that, you know, again, talking about that sort of beveled case and all that, I think the design is awesome. Although they didn't do a PRX chrono back when they released the PRX in the 70s or whatever, you know, it's really got that spirit about it. You know, display back, just gorgeous. For the money, I think it's really, really good.
So I've got 3 watches for, let's say, $2,100. What are you? 2 watches for $2,100?
So okay, so to make it fair, I have 2 watches for $240. I've got that one for $2. I have
no. I'm not going for what you got. I'm saying right now. Where are we at right now? So right now, I've got 3 watches in my collection. I've got a G-Shock,
Yep.
I've got the Dress Seamaster,
Yep.
and I've got this Tissot, and I've spent $2,100.
Okay, so I've got the G-Shock, which I valued at $240. I've got the Tissot PRX, which I valued at $2, so $2,240 for 2 watches. I'll give you my third then. So my third is a Swatch System 51.
Ooh, okay. You're going to have a big piece coming up soon, aren't you?
Hence, so System 51 to me is, you know, talking about the excitement about worn and wound and da-da-da-da. Like, I remember when these got released at the show a few years back, and more than anything else in terms of big outlet watch journalists, you know, outlets, pundits who are there, consumers who are there, this was the thing that got the most coverage. This was the thing that people were most excited about. Like, from a watchmaking point of view, to have a fully automatic movement completely made out of, you know, plastic other than the bits that have to be metal or whatever, and to have it, you know, cool rotor that you know, does things visually, display back and everything else for 200 Australian dollars, that is awesome. And like, you know, the brand itself, like, this is one variant, and there's, you know, maybe, I don't know, over time they've had, and I'll be guessing here, but they might have had 20 or 30 variants. So if you don't like that one, then there's definitely one that you would have, and there were just cool, funky colors and all sorts of stuff. Again, to me, a lot of horology for $250, basically. And
really cool.
Something that you don't give a shit, you know, it's on your wrist, you know, you can do whatever you're doing, and it's super light as well. So it's super cool, I reckon. So that's,
correct me if I'm wrong, they're put together with one screw, aren't they? Straight down the middle. That's what's so cool about them, is that they're actually made with one singular piece that goes through the middle of the movement and connects the whole thing.
Holds it together, yeah, absolutely.
It's really cool. Like, for like what would traditionally, you know, people would look down their nose and say, "Oh, it's a bit of a junky watch." Like, that's really, really impressive.
That's what I'm saying. Look,
it's a whole new way of doing a movement. That's cool.
This is not a Rolex. This is not a Rolex. This is not a Patek. This is not a Greubel 4C. It's a Swatch, and it's the equivalent of, you know, Toyota going out and totally reinventing how to do a car for the new Corolla. Like, yeah. And it's meant to be sold in its millions. It's meant to just work. It's meant to be fantastic. Just to proper the movement, you can see on the dial perhaps that there are little red dots that look like a little constellation. That maps out where the little jeweled hubs are within the movement on the other side.
I like that. Good pick. That's a good pick. I like that. Well done.
So that's my number 3, and it has me up to $2,480.
All right. Well, all right. I'm going for another one here. So I put this down as like a wild card, but it's realistically to me, it's like an everyday, just an awesome watch, but every day. Like you can wear it in any situation, and that would be any of the Formex Essence range. So 39 or 43, because they're basically the same price, they're within $50 of each other. To me, like I've got two of these. I've got the Malachite dial that came recently, and I've got the blue dial that my wife bought me for my 30th. It is to this day the most comfortable watch I've ever had on my wrist. There's something about the Essence 39 that it melts onto your wrist. It's a good movement. It's a Swiss movement. It's an ETA. It's a top high grade ETA decorated well. It's got a really cool intricate case design with the suspended case that when you push the bottom, the top flexes out to allow for space. It's got micro adjustment flip lock inside the clasp. So on a butterfly integrated clasp, you can actually get like 2 or 3 mil, which is always the biggest problem with butterfly clasps. Like for $2.5 grand, and again, guys, take with a pinch of salt. I am an authorized dealer of Formex, and that's obvious. It's out there, but I also own two that I bought myself, and I badgered my wife to buy one for my birthday before I became a dealer of them. I became a dealer because I love them. So for $2.5 grand, the Formex Essence range, whether you're bigger size wrist, someone like Ben who's got a more traditionally masculine sized wrist, or someone like myself with little dainty wrists, the 39, like they're incredible value. So that's mine. And they always have cool releases of dials. They've just done the blood red or grape red dial. They've got meteorite dials they've done carbon, malachite that I've said earlier. But for $2.5 grand, to me, as an everyday piece, it's perfect. They're absolutely perfect.
I like them. I think that there are really interesting developments in their design developments around that sort of fitting around the wrist and all that. Really, really cool. So I agree, but it's not one of the ones that I've got down. But I agree, it's a nice piece and a worthy one to be included in the 10K. My next one, unfortunately, I don't have to hold one up, but it's an Omega Speedy Mark II. So it's sort of
block my safe. I've got one in the safe here. I've blocked it.
So it's the slightly sort of cushiony shape version of same face as the Mark I. It's still the manual wind, and without, again, with all the caveats around investing and I think they are still massively undervalued. You can pick beat up ones with loom dropped out hands and everything for near enough to $3,000. So I've allowed in this 4, because for 4K you can pick up a pretty nice example, that's very wearable, and you'll get a lot of joy out as a vintage piece. And in fact, Omega re-released it as a coaxial new version. It's slightly bigger and this and that. It's got
That's the one I've got in store, actually. It's the coaxial from 2014. That's the one I've got.
So I personally prefer the older one because it's the original one or whatever, and that's what I'm talking about here. But I think an original Speedy Mark II is a super cool, very, very wearable vintage sports chrono.
That's a really good shout on that one. They're a really cool piece, and I think depending on how your selection goes, that vintage or the modern are really, really good options. I think interesting shape, interesting history, great brand. Yeah, nailed it. Well done.
And the racing dial version is super cool as well. So they're nice.
All right. Well, so what am I at now? Let me get my little trusty old school calculator out, because that's
I'm at 6,480 at this point.
So I'm at 200. Let's say 1,300, 500, 2,500. All right, stretching the friendship a bit here, but I think the best water resistant piece you can get within the remaining budget, which is around 4,500 to 5,500, depending on how flexible you are with numbers and if you know a good accountant, I would say the Omega Seamaster 300M, the new one. So the 2020 onwards, that is the best dive watch under $7,000 on the market for me. It's better than the Tudor Black Bay. It's better than the 58. It's better than people like Zinn are offering because the movement's better, the finishing's better, and pre-owned now, like you can pick up naked ones for like $4,500, $4,000. You can pick up full box papers, mint condition, any dark color you want, white, gray, blue, black, whatever you want for like $5,500. That is, to me, it's becoming the steal of the watch industry. Is the Seamaster 300. I've owned a couple of them. I actually bought a Tudor Black Bay 58 because everyone says they're amazing, and I bought one. Bit of a whim. I wore it. I was in Sydney. I put it on my wrist. I flew home, and it was sold the next day because an Omega Seamaster walked into the store, and I went, "That's what I should have bought. I should have bought the Black Seamaster because the dials were way nicer." And so then I bought that Seamaster, and about 2 weeks later, someone came in with the two-tone gold one on rubber, and I traded it and bought that one. So I've had a few of them, and I think the Seamaster 300 is just absolutely perfect for that $5,500 range, $5,000 range. Can't beat it.
They're good. They're gorgeous, and again, it's that sort of perfection of that early '60s design that they've carried forward, updated very, very sympathetically, and I'll pay that one for inclusion for sure. And that brings me to the last piece in my collection here, which I've valued at 3.3, so it takes me up to just under 10. It's a Zinn Diapal 756 chronograph. Now, the thing about this watch, when I first read about these 10 something years ago, the thing that you have to think about when you're looking at one of these is the technology in this watch is off the charts. So the way that you talked about the tegimented steel. So the way that they treat the steel makes it nearly as hard as diamonds. And okay, no geologists and whatever material scientists bring us up, but it's like super, super hard. Very, very.
I'm making a claim. Please don't call me on it if you're a professional in this industry.
No. Very, 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 very hard to scratch. I've had this watch for nearly 10 years, and it looks almost brand new, and I've worn it a lot. That's number one. Number two is the Diapal system means that they use a synthetic diamond hub instead of ruby, which reduces friction. It means that the watch doesn't need servicing. It's from a watchmaking point of view, super, super interesting. I've just revealed it's got the little GMT hand, so it's chrono, GMT, everything, and it's got that really nice, super, super legible, sort of very Germanic pilot watch, fonts and everything. The seals are resistant to every known chemical. So not only is it water resistant, but you could go and clean up Chernobyl and you might not make it out, but the watch will.
Or Ohio, or is it East Palestine, Ohio? Help with the train cleanup.
Oh yeah, geez, that's a whole other thing, isn't it? And then the other cool little thing is, and this is not confined to this watch particularly, but Zinn have this little capsule that screws in and out, which penetrates to the case. It's copper sulfate. And what that does is absorb any moisture and condensation or anything that is inside the movement. So it keeps the movement very, very dry. And over time, as it absorbs moisture, it changes to a sort of from a very, very almost off white with a bluish tinge to a blue as it changes. And when that's one of the only things that actually needs servicing. So yeah, this just blew my mind when I discovered it, and it was one of the first sort of actually outlay some serious money purchases for me, which the time $2,000 was a bit more serious, and yeah, have loved it and worn it a lot since, and it's that's the last watch in my 10K collection.
Oh, you don't want to You don't want to put a good watch in there? You're happy with this? Like, right, okay. Okay, no, I'm interested in the Zin because, like, again, yeah, I have a lot of respect for Zin. I think there's so many watches in there. Like the 104 is a beautiful watch. It's a great tour watch. It's something that's sort of ubiquitously known as a great entry into luxury watches. It's up there with like the Nomos that you always get recommended. I'm not sure personally if I could recommend a Zin as part of like a 5-watch collection, but as like a 10-watch collection, I think it's more fitting. Like, again, it's one of those like why I don't say go and buy yourself the Universal Genève. It's deep in the weeds. Zin's deep in the weeds for me. I think if you're going down the rabbit hole of Zin, I don't know if your watch collection is like just 5 or 6 pieces at 10 grand. I think it's probably.
You know what? I'll double down and say,
I love it when he doubles down, guys.
I would say if it was a desert island, blah blah blah, of all the watches that I have, it would come down to a choice between this and my Rainbow Zenith Premier El Primero chronograph. Out of everything that I have, because this one I know, again, like nuclear war, this one's coming out of the thing, even if I don't. And, I don't know, just the way it sits, it's just got the beautiful Flieger design. I love it. But
sometimes we love and we can't explain it, right? We love what
exactly. So if this was a 1-watch collection, I'd still stand by this. I think it's an awesome piece. And there are some other Diopel pieces that they've put out. So, if you don't know the Diopels, check it out. Shouts to Define Watches, who are sort of the Australian custodians of Zin. And super, super helpful if you need servicing or any of that stuff.
Define are one of those great stores. Like they're in the middle of nowhere in the Sunshine Coast, really. There's not a lot going on in that area, but like you can walk into their store, sit down and spend your entire day with them, and they will do it with you. They will sit and talk independence with you all day. It's awesome. They're great people.
Yeah. No, really good. So
okay, so recap us, mate. Where are you at? Let's hear the losing collection first.
So Tissot PRX 2 grand, Omega Speedy 4 grand, Zin Diopel Chrono 3300, and G-Shock Casio and Swatch System 51 for 240 each. So 6,980, 9,980, 9,780. Sorry, yeah.
Going off his mental maths. I'm going to get my little calculator out again, and I'm going to. So we've got the G-Shock Casio. I said 200 because I figured buy it pre-owned. We've got the vintage Seamaster, vintage Genève, vintage Omega, just whatever, 33, 34 mil, about $1,000. We said the Tissot PRX. Look, I'm going to put it out at like 500 because I think that's more reasonable for what you're going to pay pre-owned. What I paid was amazing, and I know that, and I'm conscious of it. And then I went into the bigger pieces. I had the Formex at 2,500. Again, any dial you want, they're amazing. And then the Omega Seamaster at 5,500, and that takes me to 9,700. And for $300, get yourself a nice watch roll or a winder or something,
or a cleaning kit. Absolutely.
I think either way, both collections, you've got like I love your Speedy pick. I think it's a really clever pick, and your collection definitely leans towards more of a Ben scale, and mine leads towards a Lewis scale, and I love that about it. And that's what's so great about watch collecting, like we say, is everyone's got a different philosophy and a different flavor. But I think you've got some really cool watches in there.
Absolutely, and you too. I think if I was going to save myself a little wild card, if I was to want to spend that, sort of $380, $400 in left over in the pocket, and I could change out either the Swatch or the G-Shock, and in this case, it would probably be the Swatch. The other thing that I would say is unbelievable value for a little watch collection is one of these. It's a Cabot Watch Company W10. Now, if you, from a collecting point of view, an interesting watch point of view, the W10 is really hard to beat for what you can pick them up for. The chronos can be expensive running into the few $1,000s, But these, the sort of the two-handers, and they are genuine two-handers because there's no date on it or whatever. For $500 or $800 or whatever is pretty phenomenal. It's actually a military issue watch. It's got fixed lug posts. Put it on a NATO and literally in battle it won't come off. Basically all the
your arm does.
all the genuine ones will have, a sort of a military. It's difficult to see here, but a military number, so you'll know when it was released, by who it was released. This particular one, according to the codes, is from 1977. It was issued to a division of the Navy. And super cool, like just simple military watch design. Always gets comments. It's quite small for my wrist, but yeah, check out the CWC W10s, because if you're wanting to scratch an itch in a growing collection at this sort of price range, again, it's a very, very cool watch for what you'll outlay for it as well.
That's a good call. That's a good call. And there's definitely a niche there for those military things, especially with the broad arrow on the back. That's a great call. Well, I think next week, guys, we're going to continue this streak of Ben losing to Lewis, and we're actually going to get.
Put it in the comments. Let's put it to the people's judges. Put it in the comments and let us know which collection you'd prefer.
Yeah, let us know. Shout us out on Instagram. Tag us. Put it in the comments. Like this, when this all goes live, there's always an Instagram post on Fine Watches AU. GC Watch Guy will have one as well. Comment. Let us know who got it. Did Ben get it or did I get it? And I think it'll be interesting, because I think we definitely have more. You definitely skew more vintage, more quirk in that respect, and then I tend to be a little bit more modern and a bit more, hypey, for lack of a better word. But so next week as well, guys, we're going to be doing the same sort of exercise, but with unlimited budget. So this is like, can I build a watch collection of all Grail watches and see, then we get to see really where things lie.
I'm going to bags the Graves complication for mine, and because there's only one of those. I'm sorry, my friend, but
yeah, you can't have to.
Mine.
Do it. You can have it. You can absolutely have it. I'm still gonna wipe the floor with it.
Awesome.
I think you did really well. I think that was a good one. The Speedy's got me. I think that's a really good pick. It's played on my mind now that the Speedy was a good pick. But I think the Seamaster's better. I think the Seamaster's better, but I think that Speedy's a cool, interesting pick. Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
Thank you. And congrats on that Genève. That's a beautiful watch.
Yeah, it's so cool, man. It's just, and it's so thin. Like you can probably see, like it's gorgeous. Yeah.
There are very few watches that, and you've probably got this same thing. There are very, very few watches that one looks back on and goes, I really should have bought that. And my two main ones is a original white Snoopy Speedy that I could have got for 15 grand a few years back. Very, very stupid decision not to buy that.
Oh, yeah.
At the time, that would have been a very, very big outlay for me. And the other one is it was a beautiful condition Universal Genève Tri-Compacts, which the guy was asking $1,800 for, and it was beautiful, like original condition, very little, but original patina. It was stunning, and I dream about that watch.
Wow. Well, we all make mistakes, don't we? We all have those where I've got a Z Blue Milgas's at $8,000. You're like, Jesus Christ, what was that? It's crazy. But look, I love that piece. It's great. It's got a bit of history. It's a bit of interest. It's a story piece for watch collectors, really, that one. It's not, no one would notice what it is on the street. It doesn't really matter. It's not about that. That's one that when I take to Red Bar, I feel like, ooh, tell me about that watch. And that's a cool story. So yeah, I'm happy with that.
Beautiful thing. All right. Well, as usual, thank you very much to everyone for listening. As we said at the start, we don't want to labour it too much, but let's labour it. Please like, subscribe, tell your friends, help us grow this little growing community that we have. It's great when we hear from you guys. It warms our hearts and keeps us doing what we're doing. From us at the Fine Watchers Podcast, Season 2, Episode 3. Until next time, enjoy.
Thank you. Take care.